It's rivalry weekend in college football all over the place. And we got Florida at LSU. And since Florida State's not playing this weekend, I thought, you know what? Let's check that out. And USF at Miami. I really want to check that out too right now as well. Let's talk a little bit about college football around the country and have some fun with it today on Locked On Seminoles.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst and writer. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We're going to have some fun today talking about the Florida State Seminoles being off, but having an opportunity to gain some knowledge, a lot of knowledge, because Florida plays at LSU. Is Napier going to get fired? Billy Napier is certainly on the hot seat. We're going to learn a lot about that game. But the more interesting game, at least for some of you, is USF at Miami. I think that game will be very intriguing. I have some strong takes on both the LSU hosting Florida and Miami hosting USF games. But first, I really do want to dig in to the game that is in Baton Rouge because Napier's probably going to get fired. I think that's the more applicable game to discuss. And to be honest with you, I think it has more ramifications for Florida State. And since this is a Florida State podcast, let me start with that. And here's why I bring it up. Number one, there are multiple players that are committed to the Gators or they are pursuing in the 26, 27, and 28 classes that Florida State also wants. They're going to lose some of those kids. Now, I don't know if they're going to lose them to Florida State, but the sooner Billy gets fired, the more likely things go haywire for the Gators. And here are the next four games, including this weekend in Baton Rouge. They play at LSU. Next weekend, they go to Miami. Then the Florida Gators have a bye week. Then their next two, they go back home to the Swamp to take on the Texas Longhorns. And then the Florida Gators travel to the state of Texas to play Gig 'em. They're going to Aggie Land in College Station. The Texas A&M Aggies host the Florida Gators. That is a four-game stretch from hell. And with all that's going on there, one of two things is likely to happen. Either they're going to galvanize and they're going to figure it out and they're going to win at least two of those games. They're capable. Or they're going to fall apart and this thing is going to go bonkers. I'm here for it. But again, since this is a Florida State podcast, note, I make no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is going to be ugly in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways for Florida at some point. I just think it's going to be sooner than later, just based on who their schedule is. And with that, I have a ton of stats on this game. The last I saw, it was like an 8.5-point spread about a day ago. So it's right around there. But these are the stats. I'm just going to go down the baseline, and then I want to give my keys to the game in my final score prediction. For the record, I think 8.5 is too many. I would not be shocked at all if the Florida Gators went to LSU and won. They have nothing to lose. Florida is a team that I doubt LSU's players, not the coaching staff, that the LSU's players are going to be 100% bought in across the board. Most of them, like Nussmeier and some of the key guys, sure. But it only takes one stupid play, and you can lose a game against a team like Florida that's got Jaden Ball, DJ Wagway, a bevy of different receivers and skill players on both sides of the ball that can really run. They've got a nose guard that's going to play in the NFL. There's a lot of players that you can't mess around with. And again, they have nothing to lose. Everybody's making fun of the Florida Gators. LSU better take this game very, very seriously. It's a rivalry, so you would think so. But anyway, here are the numbers. Starting with UF, then I'll jump over to LSU. Scoring, 35.5 points per game. That's 46th in the nation. Rushing, 166.5. That's 67th in the nation. Passing, 236.5. That's 63rd in the nation. Total offense for the Florida Gators, 403 yards a game, 67th. Now, this is where I get into the more specific stats that I just find intriguing, that I follow when I go through any game, Florida State or anything else. These are the ones that I look at. Third downs. What's your percentage on converting? 44% through two games for the Gators, 54 or number 54 in the country. Runs of 20 or more yards. They got Jaden Ball. He's going to end up playing in the NFL. That's a really good running back. But they only have two runs over 20 yards. I was a little surprised by that. And Jaden's played pretty well, but that's not very good overall in terms of the national numbers. That is 70th. Passing plays at 20 or more yards. With DJ Lagway, you would think it would be pretty decent. It is. They're 33rd in the nation with 8 of them. They've had a few drops, too. That could have been higher. Now, on the defensive side, the 2 stats that most people want to hear about, tackles for loss and sacks. Like, are you creating havoc? What is your goal with that, and how do you go after it? Florida's multiple, but I don't know if they have a defensive identity that I could truly define. They've had a lot of defensive staff turnover since Napier's been there, and maybe that's why it's so poor. 89th in the nation, averaging 5 a game. They play 2 games. They've got 10 total tackles for loss. That's pretty bad. Tackles for loss are one thing. Sacks are worse. There's no excuse for the following stat ever at the University of Florida. Ever, ever, ever. They have 2 in 2 games. And their first game was Long Island. 2. That is 106th in the nation. So if you take nothing else from this podcast today, and I'm just doing overviews of 2 games and making my predictions, throwing out stats, Florida up front defensively has not figured it out, and they've got multiple NFL guys. I don't know. They've got a pretty good defensive end that teams are kind of trying to chip and go after. He's kid from St. Thomas Aquinas, really good player, and they got a nose guard that's going to play in the NFL. And you got 2 sacks, and you're 106th in the nation. That's a problem. On the other side, you got Garrett Nussmeier for LSU, and here are their stats. Even though they have him and a bevy of good receivers again, some of these stats might surprise you, and I'll go into it more, but they lost not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 offensive linemen, 2 of which were a year early to the draft, and both of them were tackles. 1 was 4th overall. They don't have any chemistry up front. They've got a gazillion skill players, but they are raw as all get out. They do not start a senior that is like a dude, a guy that everybody wanted out of high school on their line. This is like once in 10 years at LSU kind of thing. So Nussmeier is going to have to create a little more, and he's pretty much a statue. He's not the most mobile guy. He could run a little bit, but not really. Caden Durham and a bevy of other running backs. They got the Barry kid, who I had a chance to get to know when he was a freshman in high school. I always knew he was going to be a dude. They need to get him the ball more, but they can't run it. And as these stats, we'll see what I'm talking about. They're rushing. They're 107th in the nation with 118 yards a game. They scored 23 points this past week against Louisiana Tech. Not great. I know they went to Clemson and won, but they won more with defense. They're only giving up 44 yards a game on the ground. Their defense is legit. Dominic McKinley in the middle is good, but offensively, it's just not the same. Overall points, they're 20 per game. That's 108th. Very, very concerning. Passing, 59, 242.5, and then total offense, 360.5. That's 83rd. LSU struggling. Again, up front, they got problems. Florida's D-line's got problems. Florida's pass rush has got problems. So it's bad on bad there. Who wins that matchup? The winner of that matchup will win the football game. Now, moving on down, 3rd down stats. Again, you got Nussmeier. He's probably going to make some pretty good decisions. That's a graduate student. He should be pretty good. 48.2%, 37th in the nation. They have 3 plays of 20 more yards running the football. Not very good. 45th. And then they only have 3. This is really surprising. Only 3 passing. LSU, that's 113th. But again, O-line, O-line, O-line. That is concerning if you're an LSU fan. Tackles for loss moving to the defensive side. They're 100th. They've got 9 in 2 games. It's 4.5. But they are playing very well, just like getting stuffs. So there's different ways to look at that. They've got 4 sacks, which is 60th. Now, here are the questions that I have. Going back to the line play. Somebody's got to play better. Jake Slaughter is the center for UF. He's a recruit I got to know during his high school career. Really good guy. Wanted to be a Gator. Ends up at Florida. He's a kid that just plays as hard as all get out. I think he's a very big key. Him and Dominic McKinley, that is a matchup worth watching. I don't know if Dom will be on him a ton. He's probably going to play more 3-tech. But those are 2 future NFL players. And also, does he just get them in better position to run the ball? Jaden Ball needs to be UF's MVP, more than likely, for this game to go their way. Do I buy that? I don't know. It's possible. But every little thing that Jake does, and not that we can measure this, is going to be vital. If Jake Slaughter is not hitting a home run with making line calls and setting it up, because LSU's front is pretty darn nasty, then they're going to struggle. They're probably going to try and force DJ to throw, as crazy as that may sound, because if Florida, whenever they've had struggles, since Napier's been running the ball, they're done. They just don't run the ball. well and then still win. Like there's certain teams that can kind of get away with it. Like Cam Ward last year at Miami. That's not what this team is. Some of the old school Florida State teams might have their run game fairly shut down. Not going to matter. This is not a Florida team that can do that, at least yet. O-line solid. It's not great. Jaden Ball still has to work for a lot of yards, and he makes plays after contact. He's got great contact balance. Can they get him to the second level to do that? Dominic McKinley, I'm telling you, the 3-tech at LSU, he's a true sophomore elite player. That is a young man I had a chance to get to know at the Under Armour All-American game, and he was fantastic all week at practice. He destroyed people in one-on-ones. Didn't win, destroyed. That is a 3-and-out NFL D tackle. That is the number one priority for the Florida Gators in this game, and if they do not do well with him, they will not come within 10 points. That's just simple as it gets. They must be able to put DJ Lagway, who's obviously a very gifted young man, in advantageous situations. We'll see. I don't know if it's going to work out real well for them, trying to do double teams and then move on to the second level, if they want to wham blocking, if they want to mix it up, if they just want to go one-on-one. I have no idea what they're going to do. But Dominic McKinley is a problem for just about anybody. I doubt it's any different for UF. In terms of setting that up, obviously Lagway throws the ball well deep. And to that end, I want to go ahead and share my screen on this. Look, DJ is not a guy that I think you're going to see struggle a lot. And one of the reasons is he gets the ball out quick. When he's not blitzed, he's at 74.2% completion. When he is blitzed, he's 75. Like, he doesn't panic. But at the same time, just rationally, when you keep him clean, he's 75%, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 353 yards. If you can keep him clean, it's easier to do that if you run the ball well and he can take play action shots where you add at least one guy to your pass pro. And then after that, let his talent kind of take over. So again, I come back to Jaden Ball. Is he good enough to at least be in the conversation at minimum for game MVP? If not, Florida's going to struggle. On the LSU side, I brought up to you the pass. This is mind-blowing to me. 3 passing plays of 20 or more yards for the Tigers. That's 113th in the nation. That is very poor. There's no excuse for Florida State, LSU, Florida, Alabama, any of these schools with all these athletes to be in that number. I was shocked, especially with Lagway there. I think part of that's got to be Billy really being stubborn about running the ball, and that's why he's on the hot seat. But they have to unleash it. They're not going to consistently run the ball against LSU. But for the record, LSU's front is really good, and they're giving up just over 40 yards a game on the ground. You're not going to run the ball much. Now, I know Clemson doesn't run it well. They've been disappointing. And Louisiana Tech does not have the same athletes as Florida. Granted. That does not mean that you should expect LSU all of a sudden to be a sieve. They got big guys up front. They've gotten better and better under Coach House as their defensive coordinator. It is going to be difficult for Florida to run the ball. Final point here, Nussmeier. He's probably only going to get a few chances at this, and he's got the talent. They're going to play some cloud coverage. They're going to play a lot of cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, keep everything in front. Will he be patient enough? And when he does get somebody, whether it's a bust, a one-on-one in man coverage, does he hit them? To me, I like them better because I trust their run defense more than I trust Florida's. I don't think they'll run the ball very well. I think it will be an ugly game. I think there will be some turnovers. I've got them winning this game 31-27. Again, I think the spread's around 8.5, depending on which place you look, but I believe that's what it is on FanDuel, unless it changed here in the last 24 hours. So again, I've got the Gators winning this one, the Tigers beating the Gators 31-27. I don't think it will be a game where either team blows the other one out. I'd be very surprised. It'll be competitive. And again, remember, the other wild card here, Florida has nothing to lose. If they do figure out their run game, get ball loose a little bit more, this could get interesting because then Nussmeier is more likely to go back into his old style and throw the ball into coverage, etc. Need to get the guys going in the running back room early. I don't think it'll just be Ball. I think they'll use multiple, but he is the key. If Florida can do that, and then Lagway, the guy I still have on the screen here, for those of you on YouTube, look, that's when he can make plays. But if he's in 3rd and 7 all day long, his best attribute as a deep ball thrower goes out the window. When we come back, we're going to talk about the other game that I really, really am interested in. USF plays at Miami. What do you think of that game? Is it going to be one where it's a blowout? Can USF hang around? Can they even beat Miami? That is next here on Locked On Seminoles. This episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. For me, this past week for the Florida State Seminoles, Deuce Robinson. He earned that because he defined the game really, really easy with 160 yards, 2 touchdowns right out of the gate. In a quarter of play, he was the guy with 2 touchdowns, one a long 82-yarder and another one a bomb where he caught it with one hand in the end zone against tight coverage. That is redefining the game if there ever was. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopping in to get all your latest Noles news. And since the Noles are off, I thought I would preview the games that I thought would most likely impact the Noles. Florida at LSU, we just did that one. And now we are going to talk about USF at Miami. Going to do some of the same stats that I talked about. But first, before I do that, just want to bring up a point. And this is something I learned a long time ago from coaches. Long time ago, Urban Meyer and several other people that I had the opportunity to get to know. When you play games matters. Always pay attention to that. Who did USF play this past week? The Gators. They won in the Swamp. However, that's a physical downhill game against a big SEC team. Miami played a team that's in the FCS. The difference in physicality is massive. Now, Miami 2 weeks ago played the University of Notre Dame in a very physical game, but they still get a week less of all the beat up and everything. They could rest guys. They played their starters less. That is a massive advantage. You can't put a point total on that, etc., but that is a massive advantage. And one of the reasons, probably the last I saw, FanDuel had this game at 18.5 in favor of the Miami Hurricanes. I think that's a pretty interesting number because if you really look at it, like that's almost the identical number, if not the exact number that Florida was favored over USF. But again, who do you play and when do you play? Those are very, very big factors. And I think there's something to be said for the opportunity to go out, play a good opponent, but at the same time, do you really want to play back-to-back? USF doesn't always get the opportunity to do those things in the manner that they probably wanted to, but it is what it is. Carson Beck here, I want to kind of throw up some stats and show you what a veteran quarterback, how that can be helpful. Intermediate passes are the hardest. He's hitting 2/3 of them, and he's 9.4 yards per attempt, which is good, and a touchdown. Short, 95.7%, anything less than 10 yards. And then behind the line of scrimmage, he's 84.6. He's hitting the short stuff, taking what the defense gives him and pick them apart. Against Notre Dame, he was 13 out of 16 against zone. Against Man, he was only 7 out of 14. Notre Dame played probably too much zone, but at the same time, he's a guy that he's a veteran. He's been through it all. When he was at Georgia, it's not going to be too big for him. On the other side, if you want to look at the opportunity for Byron Brown is not a guy I know a ton about, and I don't want to like pick on him or anything like that. But at the same time, he had a good game against UF, but that's out on film now. They're going to make sure they try to keep him in the pocket. And if he breaks a ton of tackles, good for him. But I think it's going to be more about his ability to go out there and make plays now where he's going to have to make plays with his arm. I could be wrong, but I think we're going to see a scenario where Brown throws the football from the pocket a little bit more, whether he wants to or not. Miami, I think, will blitz from the edge, try to force him to one side of the field. But anyway, here are a few of his numbers. When he's kept clean, 70.8%. But when he's under pressure, he's 36.4%. Nowhere near the situation that we saw with Miami's quarterback. And, Carson Beck's a veteran. I get it. But Brown's, he's not a newbie to the college game. And he was banged up last year. That hurt him quite a bit. But I just don't know if he's been in these situations as much. We need to see him be able to be under pressure and deliver from the pocket, in my opinion, if they're going to beat Miami, barring them winning the turnover battle by 2 or more. If you win by 2 or more, you can beat pretty much anybody. But anyway, that's just part of it. When he's blitzed, he's 59.1%, not blitzed, 67.6%. Those numbers tell me that the Canes are coming. Maybe I'm wrong again, because Heatherman, the defense coordinator from Miami, he likes to play a lot of cloud and a lot of zone, keep things in front. This is a mobile quarterback where if you play zone, you got guys facing him to take away some of his running lanes. But I think you're going to see some complex defensive picks for them. Maybe it's going to be an opportunity to blitz off the edge a little more, turn Ruben Bain loose on some stunts, maybe put him in the middle, just kind of mix it up, get Ruben loose. We'll see. But I think that Miami will control this game for the most part. Again, they're not coming off a physical game like USF. They have a better roster, and I think their quarterback play is a definitive factor. I don't think they're going to blow out USF. Alex Golesh is a good coach. He may not be long for USF. I'm sure he's going to get plenty of opportunities at the end of this year. But Brown has to play above these numbers that he's put up in 2 weeks. And he's played pretty well, but they're not going to let him just run around. UF did a terrible job of containing Brown, and you're not going to see that from Miami, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I will be shocked. So for me, this game comes down to 2 things. Does Brown throw from the pocket and do so successfully? And does Miami give them any freebies? If you're a home team favored by 18.5, the easiest way to lose is turn the ball over. UF kind of did that last week, not going for it on 4th down, poor decisions in regards to the kicking game, and the horrible use of timeouts by Billy Napier It was the closest thing to it. It wouldn't be the first time Mario Cristobal has messed up the end of a game or something if he did it too. To that end, Miami should win this game by double digits. I have them going out, getting an early lead and holding on, winning 31-20. I think they'll grind them into the dirt kind of deal. They got more depth. Obviously, it's Miami, but we'll see. When we come back, we're going to talk about the opportunity for college football in general. Man, it's a good week. There are some other good games I want to talk about, and I'm just going to run it down from Friday on, just have some fun with it. That is next here on Locked On Seminoles. Today's show is brought to you by Drip Drop. If you're ever trying to stay on top of your routine and you're just trying to get into your workout and everything, but maybe not working out so well, the long days on campus or anything else going back to class, hydration is where it all starts to get you back in a groove, and that's where Drip Drop comes into play. When you're on top of your hydration, you're going to notice things work better. Your energy, your mood, your focus, everything works better, and that's why Drip Drop is for you. Drip Drop is doctor-developed and scientifically proven for fast hydration. It uses the perfect balance of sodium electrolytes and glucose to help your body absorb fluids quickly, delivering 3 times the electrolytes and half the sugar of a leading sports drink. So whether you like grape or any other flavor, they've got something for you, and it can help you get back on your game quickly. Drip Drop is a great option. Right now, Drip Drop is offering Locked On listeners 20% off their first order. Just head over to dripdrop.com and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's dripdrop.com. Promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off. Stock up now before the heat hits hard. Today's show is also brought to you by DoorDash. DoorDash is something that for the weekend warriors that want to watch games on the couch, hanging out with friends, here's your chance because it's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP too. Who delivered? Powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. For me, again, this Deuce Robinson. Florida State, no doubt about it. They've had the opportunity to win a lot of games in the last few years, but they didn't always have a playmaker like a Deuce Robinson to make it happen. And he had 160 yards, 2 touchdowns early in the game, really setting it up for a big opportunity to get the Noles rolling, and they just kept going from there. And just like Deuce Robinson delivered, so does DoorDash deliver for your Saturdays. You can even get up to $250 on the year, including $100 in DoorDash credits with DoorDash. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo code GOOD through November 18th. All right, let's just talk about the major games in college football. Just going to run them down Friday through. Nothing special here, just quick hitters. My takes on things to watch. I'll throw out a few predictions and just have some fun with it. College football, again, this is a pretty good weekend. And I want to see not just who wins games, but how they play, how focused they are. So let's run it down. Indiana State and Indiana. You're like, well, that's a blowout. Exactly. Last year, Indiana whooped teams like this. Ended it quick. Do they have that same drive? 6:30 p.m. Eastern on Big Ten Network. Indiana hosts Indiana State. Fernando Mendoza, kid from the state of Florida. He's from Miami, played at Columbus. Maybe that is a program that'll help him because that's a really good high school program. Then he went to Cal, transferred to Indiana. This could be the opportunity for Indiana to get kind of rolling. They've got Illinois next week. If they don't get this game and win big, I doubt they're going to beat Illinois. Colgate at Syracuse. Syracuse just needs to win that game. They're struggling. By the way, pay attention as Florida State fans to Syracuse. There's a lot of recruits still on the board that Florida State might like to take from Syracuse. Colorado at Houston. That game's tonight as well, 7:30 Eastern on ESPN. By the way, Syracuse game's ACC Network tonight at 7 o'clock. Houston's playing pretty well. Colorado's going to like their third quarterback. I don't know what's going on. I like Houston big in that one. Arizona hosting Kansas State. Kansas State didn't figure it out. It's long gone for this season. Something's wrong with them. They lost Iowa State. They lost the Army. They lose to Arizona. It's going to implode. 9 o'clock on Fox. 10 o'clock, Big Ten Network, New Mexico at UCLA. Same kind of deal. UCLA stinks. They have been blitzkrieged in the first quarter of these games. Looked awful on defense. I mean, just terrible. They better figure it out. New Mexico's a solid team, and if they lose this game, they could lose their team. They could lose their locker room. No bueno. Moving to Saturday, oh boy. There's going to be a massacre in Chicago as Oregon goes to Northwestern. Noon game on Fox. Oh boy, that could be 56-10 kind of score. And the 10 probably would be the last 7 minutes of the game. It could be 56-0 with 8 minutes to go in that game. And it would not surprise me. Again, noon on Fox, Oregon at Northwestern. Clemson at Georgia Tech. This game is another new game on ESPN. Clemson's run game stinks. Georgia Tech's run game needs to get better. It's not quite what it was. Haynes King's always banged up, but it's at Georgia Tech. If they're going to beat Clemson, it's now because Clemson's run game is goofy. They haven't had the same luck with the receiver position. Their best receiver, Williams kid, got a hamstring injury. Would not be shocked if that ended up being an upset. We'll see. I would still pick Clemson because they've got a really good quarterback who can throw it. But they haven't been dynamic. That'll probably be a very close competitive football game. Oklahoma at Temple, that'll be a blowout. That game will be over by halftime. Another noon game, that's on ESPN2. Wisconsin at Alabama. Not a good time to be a Badgers fan. Alabama is mad. Alabama has a chance to make proof that they're still a very viable team for the playoff. Wisconsin will feel that wrath. ABC at noon. That's going to break. It's going to be over 20 points, in my opinion. Originally, I thought that would be closer, but Alabama losing to Florida State, probably not going to help Wisconsin's cause there. Central Michigan at Michigan, noon on Big Ten Network. That game will be over by halftime. Not a big surprise there. Nebraska hosting Houston Christian, obliteration. Let's see here. We've got, and there's a whole bunch of really bad games. Penn State hosts Villanova before hosting Oregon next week. That's a really interesting game because how much does Penn State really play their starters? Georgia at Tennessee, 3:30 ABC. That game ought to be awesome. Does Tennessee, with all their new plays they've been instituting, do they keep Georgia off balance? Can they throw the ball short and not just chuck it down the field? Georgia's going to try to take away the short ball all game long. I'm not sure that's going to work out well for Tennessee. I don't think they can just run their traditional run game against Georgia's front, Christian Miller and those guys. Got to prove it to me. I like Georgia by double digits, and I just think it'll be a grinded out, ugly football game, something like 23-13, something like that. I don't think that Gunnar Stockton's going to have to do a ton. I really don't. Oregon State at Texas Tech, 3:30 on Fox. Texas Tech will kill them. USC at Purdue. Purdue's got a new coach. They'll be improved, but USC's Mekhi Lemon. If you do not know that name, the wide receiver, Jacoby Lane and those guys, Mekhi, like he's so good at running routes. I really enjoy watching him play. And Maeda, the quarterback, he's improved since last year. USC is a viable threat to make the playoff. 3:30 on CBS or Paramount Plus. I expect that game to get uglier and uglier as the game moves forward. Looking down the slate here, there's a lot of bad football games here in the middle. not really shocking, but one that's kind of interesting. Neither team is where they want to be. Pittsburgh at West Virginia. Rich Rod's back at West Virginia, but their roster's nowhere near where it needs to be. I like Pitt by double digits in Morgantown. You don't hear me say that very often for the backyard brawl, but I don't think they're going to be very good. North Carolina gets Richmond at home on 3:30 on ACC Network. That'll be a blowout. Iowa State at Arkansas State. Does Iowa State look past that game completely? I don't think so. I think they'll play pretty well, and that'll help them. Texas has UTEP at home. That's a blowout. We already talked about Miami hosting USF. Going down the list even further, Ohio State plays Ohio. Oof. That could be really rough. A really interesting game is Arkansas at Ole Miss. Taylon Green, the quarterback at Arkansas, has 10 touchdowns, only 2 picks. That is a kid I saw live last year. I didn't realize how athletic he was until I saw it in front of my own face. If Ole Miss screws around and if they turn it over, Austin Simmons better not be throwing the ball to the wrong team. Coming in, he's got 3 touchdowns, 4 picks. That could be a game where Ole Miss finds itself in a very competitive situation with 7 minutes to go. One score, one way or the other. Arkansas has nothing to lose. Nobody's picking them, but they're better than they were last year. Watch out for Arkansas. Moving down the list even further, Florida at LSU. Already talked about that. That's 7:30 game. Big Ten Network at night. They got 7:30. They got Iowa hosting Massachusetts. Should be a slaughter, but Wade Gronowski's throwing the ball. I'm not positive that it will be. Another sleeper game, Vanderbilt at South Carolina, SEC Network, 7:45. Look, Diego Pavia, I saw him live last year as well. He's just clutch. He's not necessarily an NFL player, but he's clutch. South Carolina's offense only scored 17 points against Virginia Tech, while Vandy this past week scored 44. It's relative. It's not completely dialed in the same, but South Carolina better figure it out. If they score 17 to 24 in that range, they had a punt return for a touchdown, I believe it was, against Virginia Tech. They're not necessarily going to win that game that way. Do not be surprised if Virginia Tech is kind of the barometer that we come back to if Vanderbilt wins that game. Utah plays at Wyoming, kind of a sleeper game. I doubt they'll lose, but 8 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. Duke at Tulane, that's a sleeper game too. Mensah, the quarterback at Duke, was at Tulane last year. Now he's got to go back to his home stadium from his prior team. We'll see how that goes. Obviously, they're coming off the beatdown that Illinois gave them. Looking down the list, the other games that are kind of interesting, at least. Air Force at Utah State. That'll be a fun game, 9:45, Fox Sports 1. And then ESPN has the Minnesota at Cal game. The freshman quarterback from Cal. I'm not going to butcher his name. He is very good. A kid from Hawaii, 10:30 on ESPN. He can spin it. And then a game just kind of out of curiosity for me, Boston College at Stanford. Stanford is atrocious. Lonergan, though, the quarterback for BC, he can really throw it. He's a kid from the Atlanta area. That's a very good football player. We'll see what happens there. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles a part of your day each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Just wanted to have some fun today talking about some of the games this weekend because the Noles don't play. And I think it's going to be fun to see all these different teams come out and compete. A lot of rivalry games, the Florida LSU game, etc. No big deal for us as far as watching the Noles. So let's just check out everybody else. It should be a good time. Looking into the chat, by the way, Uptown Dre. It's all chill this week for us, and we can watch Florida and Miami go down, and Notre Dame might take an L also. It's possible. You don't know. I forgot about that. Notre Dame versus Texas A&M. I think that'll be another close one. I would take Notre Dame, but it would not be surprising to me if they lost. That should be a very good game too. I believe that game's 7:30 at night on NBC. So once again, thank you for joining in. This has been Brian Smith here on Locked On Seminoles. We will see you again soon.